Good morning and welcome to the February meeting of the Audit Committee. And without further ado, let's just get straight on with business. Firstly, are there any apologies at all today?
Yes, Convener, we have an apology from Councillor Harry Coates with Councillor Forbes substituting.
Okay, thank you very much. And are there any declarations of interest? Well, if so, please put DI in the chat. No. Okay, and sorry, if we can perhaps just have a roll call, Kirsten, that would be great.
Yeah, morning members. When I call out your name, if you could please confirm that you are present. Convener, we've heard from yourself. Councillor Liz Barrett.
Present.
Councillor Donaldson.
Present.
Councillor Forbes.
Morning, I'm here.
Councillor Ellingworth.
Present.
Councillor McCall.
Good morning, I'm here.
And Councillor McDade.
Good morning, I'm also here.
All members are present, Convener.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we now move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is the minute of the meeting of the Audit Committee of 8th December. Are there any concerns or comments about any of the or inaccuracies about any of the draft minutes?
Not that I could see.
No comments. Okay, thank you. Can I take these as Councillor Barr, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Convener. I just wanted to check on the last page. Please, could I ask Jackie if she has any kind of timescale about the update about contracts that aren't run within PKC, please?
See where that is. Jackie, do you have a response to
Bottom
that
of
one?
page 8.
Yeah,
thank you, Councillor. Yes, I was just reading that section. At this point, I don't have any update regarding that. It's not something that I've been working on within for the last couple of months.
Okay, thank you. So can we take these minutes as approved? Thank you very much.
Approved.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item 4, which is the internal audit follow-up. And Jackie, if I can ask you to speak to that report, please.
Thank you, Convener. The follow-up for 2 substantive reports will be coming towards for the next audit committee on the Live Active Leisure and also the cash reports, and time is in the diaries to discuss that with the relevant contacts within services. Of the remaining items that are on our database as actions which are outstanding, there are 2 which are included in the appendix which have yet to be completed. These relate to the local action partnerships and also the roads maintenance partnership. With regard to the first action, the local action partnership action, it's anticipated that that will be completed by March this year. And the roads maintenance partnership action, which elected members will see has been hanging around for some considerable time. I've had quite extensive discussions with the service on this one. This particular action, the primary part of the action was about ensuring that the roads maintenance partnership agreement was approved, and that was undertaken in May 2019. Subsequently, the service has been has reconsidered their approach to this more recently, and you can see from the appendix what the service is proposing in order to ensure that the obtaining best value in works contracts procedure is fit for purpose. If you have any questions, I'm sure that Fraser Crofts will also be able to answer any questions that you might have on this paper.
That's great, Jackie. Thank you very much. And if you have a question, please put Q in the chat. And first to do so is Councillor Donaldson. Stuart.
Thank you, Convener. I hear, Jackie, what you're saying about LAL and the cash reports, and that'll be at the next meeting, and I totally understand the reasons on that. But I must say, the more I look at it on the roads maintenance partnership, regardless of what you're saying, why are we now going to have to wait until March 2023 to get, and that's what's on the report, 2023. And this has been going on for a long, long time. It's it may have been that it was agreed in council. What was it in 2019? I remember that discussion on council. Well, the key thing here seems to be it's about procedures, and procedures that are related to British standards, ISO standards, and other non-British standard requirements. But what really alarms me is when I look at it, we've got, there's a bit at the end where it states, I'll just read out, yeah, the partnership arrangements are supported by obtaining best value in works contracts procedures that do not refer to BS, ISO, so on. The procedures are also in need of review, as the document is dated 2005 and stipulates a review period of 12 months, and the approval section states await SMT authorization. So I just do wonder what is going on here. I know it's rated as medium, but it is such a lengthy period of time. Even if we could get a written update for the next meeting in March, and an explanation as to why it's taking so long. Thank you.
Jackie, are you able to respond to that, or Fraser perhaps?
I don't know whether Fraser wants to respond to this.
Thank you, convener. Appreciate the time that we've been dealing with this. It goes back some way. We acknowledge that. I think that the key point here is that this is about a review of the procedures that we have in place. It's not to say that we don't have procedures in place at present, and as such, I think, Jackie, that's why we have a medium risk attached to this. So we have procedures in place which ensure the best value delivery of services. The Roads Maintenance Partnership Agreement in itself was established and recognised that was and continues to be the best way for the council to receive its services and to ensure that they not only remain fit for purpose but are delivering best value as well. Regarding the timescales, we've seen a little bit of change in terms of the management arrangements within the Roads Maintenance Partnership. Our previous deputy manager, Stuart Dahl, is now the RMP manager, and as such, we reckon the best way to ensure a sort of independent review, if you like, of the obtaining best value and work procedures is to have a short life working group pulled together. So suggestion is that we have colleagues from within the roads division, traffic services, but also from the procurement team and possibly also from the corporate asset management team. So in doing that, we believe that will provide a degree of objectivity, a further degree of objectivity and independence, if you like, to that review. And I think the other thing that's important here is that we're looking to align that piece of work with the reassessment, if you like, of the partnership agreement, which will expire in March 23. Thanks, convener.
Okay, thanks. Is that helpful, Stuart?
Okay, I hear what's being said here, but it's an inordinate amount of time. In particular, where I referred to the position going back to 2005, it doesn't cover all of it. Do you think we could, we're stating a completion date on this for March 2023. Do you think we could actually get something written for the March 2022 audit committee, and also what these procedures cover, because I think there's a distinction between ISO standards and non-ISO, and what areas that covers, what it relates to. I just think we need some surety on this. It certainly doesn't look good, as I mentioned, going back to 2005, and that's obviously under PKC. Okay.
Okay. If we can get some form of update, even if it's a one-pager, just to just give us a better idea, because I mean this has been a perennial. It's been here throughout this term of the council, and it would be useful to just to get a status report, a proper status report of some description, if that's possible. Fraser,
yeah, that's good.
You're typing. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that, Fraser. You're agreeing to bring back a position statement, which is helpful. Okay, can we agree to note this report? If there are no further questions. Okay.
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving on then to item 5 on the agenda, which is the internal audit update. And again, Jackie, if I can ask you to speak to this report, please.
Thank you, convener. Work has continued on the internal audit plans for both the council and also for the IJB. You can see from the update report that there are a couple of assignments which are still classed as planned, and I'm looking at alternative delivery methods for these. As I anticipated at the moment, these will be completed in time for me to take them into consideration for writing my annual report and to feed into the annual governance statement process. But we're making good progress, steady progress, and a number of these assignments are at a draft report stage at the moment, so should be available for the next meeting of the committee.
That's helpful. Yes. It does look as if we are in for a busy meeting in March with a number of reports. So no, that's understood, and I think all members will agree that it's been a difficult and challenging time as resources have been stretched, etc. And I do appreciate your update on that. Are there any questions? And I see Councillor Illingworth, you have a question.
Great, thank you, convener. Jackie, what's your staffing situation at the moment?
Currently, there is myself plus 2 members of the team, and we're shortly to be advertising for another member of the team.
Great, thank you.
And if I might just follow up on that, then Jackie, with a following wind, when would you expect that appointment to be made?
I would hope that the appointment will be made shortly, and for someone to be in post hopefully by April.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McDade.
Hey, good morning, Jackie, and apologies, I'm not going to switch my camera on just in case I lose connectivity. I'm just looking for reassurance that everything is likely to be complete in time ahead of the local government elections, so that essentially this committee has discharged its responsibilities before the election, and that the new audit committee after the elections can start with a fresh slate.
Thank you for the question. There's the next month is the last planned meeting of the audit committee, so there will be a number of assignments which will be mopped up at the start of the new council. It's my anticipation that everything should have been completed by the election. It's certainly what I anticipate at the moment, but it won't have been reported back to audit committee prior to the election taking place.
Okay, thanks. Is that the welfare rights, payroll, and partnership working that are written in as planned, but not? I don't have committee date against them. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay. Can we agree to note that report, please? Oh, Councillor Donaldson, you've come in with a question.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, from what I can see, along with the status report we've just agreed on the Roads Maintenance Partnership, we've got 6 full reports for the next meeting, and hence I think the meeting will take a bit longer than usual. Can I just ask the one on IT assets, Jackie? What is the scope of that report? Is that going to cover all our aspects of our IT infrastructure, how it links into one system to another? One of the things, for instance, is Swift, which we're at long last looking to replace, although I don't think that's until next year, and that's come up before committee before. But all the various systems like Concerto, so on and so forth.
That is around IT and information assets, and we are basing the work around that risk within the corporate risk register. So it is very much looking at quite high level of what arrangements we have in place, what controls we have in place over the management of that specific risk, and the effectiveness of that, and what the next steps are. Because there are a number of actions which are ongoing in relation to managing the information assets. So that's the coverage of that report.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. So it's looking at an important but specific area rather than a broader brush approach. Okay,
well, it is quite a broad area. We're not drilling down into individual systems.
Okay.
As managing the assets that way, we are looking across the board for the entirety of the council.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, can we agree to note this report?
Noted.
Noted.
And the final item on the agenda is on leader. And again, Jackie, if I can ask you to speak to this report, please.
Thank you, convener. This is a report which is very similar to reports that you will have seen in previous years. There's a requirement from Scottish Government that the leader programme is subject to internal audit each year. I believe that there will be one more similar report coming forward to audit committee in future to cover the final 3 months of the project. It's, as you can see in the report, the assessment of the control environment is that we can place substantial reliance on this area, which basically means that there's a sound system of governance, risk management and control existing. We looked at 2 specific areas, which were to ensure that regulatory requirements are met and to assess compliance with the service level agreement that we have with the Scottish Government. There are no actions arising from this report, and the team are well on track to deliver it in the timescales that they have. As I'm not aware of what the current position is regarding any future for the leader project as a whole. That will be something that's separate from the Scottish Government. I'm happy to take any questions, or again, Fraser Crofts is here from the service if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you again, Jackie. And are there any questions? Councillor McDade.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for the report. And given that we can place substantial assurance on it, you'll forgive my question being a bit more general about coming on to the last point you made there about replacement of EU structural funds. And I've written to the UK and Scottish Government ministers in a different capacity about this. And what I actually want to ask you is, there's been a lot of criticism over how challenging the audit requirements of the EU structural funds have been over the years, and how challenging they've been to administer. So perhaps Fraser can talk a bit about that from his team's side in that respect. And I'm just wondering, in terms of learning from your experience of auditing it and Fraser's team's experience of administering it, what changes they would propose would be helpful in future EU structural funds, so that I can feed that back in discussions that I'm in.
Thank you, Councillor. That's an interesting question. Certainly earlier on in the life cycle of this project, I think internal audit was involvement was useful, and we were able to provide advice and assurance and on how to improve the control environment and how to improve the processes that the leader team had in place. Of late, for the last couple of years, I don't see that the internal audit process has added much value in terms of improved processes. We've provided assurance along with lots of other areas to the Scottish Government in this, but for our own internal activity, there's not been a massive amount of value more recently, because Scottish Government do spot checks as well, in a similar way to the work that we've done. I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jackie. And perhaps Fraser, you wanted to contribute as well.
Thanks, convener. Yes, I suppose it was just picking up the point that's been made. I know there's an emphasis rightly on the audit capacity, the audit team capacity to be dealing with this stuff. But what we've seen over the last certainly few years, and more generally, the number of grants that are being awarded and the administration, the management of those grants is an ever-increasing resource draw. And I know my colleague Jim Coburn here in education, he's nodding. So we're seeing that more and more in terms of, as I say, that sort of resource draw, particularly from our more traditional back office functions. I think from our perspective, we understand and acknowledge the need to get the grants up and running in terms of that initial sort of assessment, if you like. But once we're on the go, I think materiality becomes a big issue for us in terms of the level of risk attached to any of those grants, and I think also the frequency of the returns that we make, and the detail which is required for those grants that really do quite a deep dive, I suppose, into some of the the information that's being requested. So I suppose it's the 2 points, just to make Audit Committee aware we are handling an awful lot now of grant requests as they come through, and that's impacting on other resources beyond the audit team. And secondly, that the sort of frequency and the depth in which further reassurance is sought from external bodies, the grant funders, if that can be pegged back a little bit, I suppose that would be of help. Thanks, convener.
Okay, thank you both for your answers. Is that helpful, Councillor McDade?
Yeah, it is, and just I think if I can just quickly come back, I think from what I've picked up from both of you, what you're saying is that, for example, under the new structural funds, it would probably be helpful to have internal involvement and sort of increased focus for the first few years, but if things are going well, then to reduce it to a more normal frequency of which we would see with other services, and only if there was a problem, for example, picked up in a more regular audit, that we would continue a sort of the more intense auditing that these funds have received in comparison to other aspects of service. Is that fair summary?
Yes, Councillor, that is fair. I'd like to deliver a risk-based internal audit programme, and if I was to be doing that fully risk-based, I wouldn't have had involvement with LEADER to the extent that I have over the last 2 to 3 years.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
That's a very helpful discussion. So thanks all for, first of all, for the question and also for the answers. Are there any other questions or comments? And if not, can we approve the report?
Approved.
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 Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the end of this morning's meeting, and as has been indicated by Councillor Donaldson, I think we can expect the next meeting to be slightly longer than this one, and so I look forward to seeing you all again in March for the final meeting of the Audit Committee under this this council. Thanks for your participation this morning. Good morning.